The most successful people in the world aren't successful because they're smarter than you, more talented than you, or luckier than you. They're successful because they learn to stop fighting against themselves. While you're busy making excuses, they made a peace treaty with their own potential. While you're listening to the voice that says, you can't, they silenced that voice and started listening to the one that says, you will. The brutal truth is that you have been programmed to fail by your own mind. And every day you wake up, you choose to keep that programming running. You've been brainwashed by your own thoughts into believing that mediocrity is your destiny, that struggle is your identity, and that dreaming big is dangerous. But what if I told you that this programming can be rewritten, that this war can be won, and that your greatest enemy can become your greatest champion? Right now, as you sit there, there's a war going on. Not in some distant land, not in the streets outside, but right inside you. Every single day you wake up and step onto a battlefield where the most dangerous enemy you'll ever face looks back at you in the mirror. This enemy knows your weaknesses better than anyone else. This enemy knows exactly what words to whisper to make you quit. This enemy has been studying you your entire life, learning your patterns, understanding your fears, and plotting your defeat. The enemy is you. But here's what most people don't understand about this war. It's the only war that really matters. You can conquer nations, build empires, and move mountains. But if you lose the war against yourself, none of it means anything. Every external battle you'll ever fight is won or lost first in the private chambers of your mind, in the quiet moments when nobody's watching, when you decide whether you're going to show up for your own life or surrender to the voice that says you're not good enough. I want to tell you about a master sculptor who lived many years ago. This man had hands that could bring stone to life. He could see angels in marble blocks that others saw as worthless rock. For months, he worked on what he knew would be his greatest masterpiece. Day after day, his skilled hands carved and shaped, revealing something beautiful from something ordinary. But as the sculpture neared completion, something strange happened. Instead of stepping back to admire his work, he began to see flaws. He saw imperfections that weren't really there. He heard voices telling him it wasn't good enough, that people would laugh, that he had failed. One night, in a moment of rage and self-doubt, he took his hammer and destroyed everything he had created. Years of work reduced to rubble in minutes. The masterpiece was gone forever. Not because it wasn't beautiful, but because the sculptor couldn't see his own greatness. You are both the sculptor and the sculpture. Every day you have the choice to create something beautiful with your life or to take the hammer of self-doubt and destroy your own potential. The tragedy isn't that we lack the ability to create something magnificent. The tragedy is that we often destroy our own work before anyone else even gets a chance to see it. This internal war isn't a new phenomenon. It's been raging since the beginning of human existence. But here's what I've learned after years of studying human potential. The people who succeed in life aren't the ones who never have this internal conflict. They're the ones who learn to win it. They understand that the voice of limitation isn't their voice at all. It's the echo of every person who ever told them they couldn't, every failure that tried to define them, every disappointment that attempted to become their identity. The problem is that this enemy within you is incredibly sophisticated. It doesn't always come at you with obvious attacks. Sometimes it comes disguised as wisdom, whispering things like, be realistic, or don't get your hopes up, or people like us don't do things like that. It makes you believe that playing small is playing safe, that dreaming big is setting yourself up for disappointment, that staying in your comfort zone is the smart choice. But comfort zones are not comfortable at all. They're prison cells that we decorate to look like home. We paint the walls, we arrange the furniture, we convince ourselves we're safe, but we're actually dying a slow death of unrealized potential. Every dream you don't pursue every risk you don't take, every opportunity you let pass by because the voice in your head convinced you that you're not ready. These become the bars of your self-made prison. Now let me tell you about a farmer in Africa who struggled to make ends meet. Every day he worked his small plot of land, barely growing enough to feed his family. He looked at his dry, rocky soil and cursed his bad luck. He watched his neighbors succeed while he remained poor, and he began to believe that poverty was his destiny. For 40 years, this man lived in lack, convinced that his land was worthless. One day, a geologist visited the area and asked to examine the soil on his farm. After careful analysis, the scientist delivered shocking news. This poor farmer had been sitting on one of the richest diamond deposits in the entire region. For 4 decades, he had lived in poverty while sleeping on top of millions of dollars worth of diamonds. The treasure was always there, but he never knew to look for it. You are that farmer, and your potential is the diamond mine. But instead of digging deep to discover what you're truly capable of, you've accepted the surface level story about who you are and what you can achieve. You've let the enemy within convince you that what you see on the surface is all there is. You've believed the lie that your current circumstances define your future possibilities. The enemy within you has been telling you stories for so long that you've started to believe they're facts. It tells you that you're too old to start over, too young to be taken seriously, too poor to take risks, too inexperienced to lead, too damaged by your past to have a bright future. But these aren't facts. They're just stories that the enemy uses to keep you from discovering your own diamond mine. Fear is this enemy's favorite weapon. Not the kind of fear that keeps you safe from real danger, but the kind that keeps you safe from growth. It's the fear of failure that prevents you from trying, the fear of success that makes you sabotage your own progress, the fear of judgment that keeps you hiding your gifts from the world. This fear whispers that it's better to never try than to try and fail, better to stay small than to risk being seen, better to remain unknown than to risk being rejected. But here's what fear doesn't want you to know. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the raw material of success. Every person who has ever achieved anything significant has a graveyard of failures behind them. The difference is that they didn't let those failures become their identity. They understood that failure is an event, not a person. They learned from it, grew from it, and used it as fuel for their next attempt. The enemy within you also uses perfectionism as a weapon. It convinces you that unless you can do something perfectly, you shouldn't do it at all. It makes you wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect conditions. But perfection is just fear wearing a fancy suit. It's procrastination dressed up as high standards. While you're waiting for perfect, life is passing you by. While you are preparing to be ready, opportunities are going to people who are willing to be imperfect but active. I want to tell you about a young athlete who had more natural talent than anyone on his team. He trained harder, ran faster, and had better technique than his competitors. But every time he stepped onto the track for a race, he would lose. Race after race, he would start strong but finish behind athletes who weren't as skilled as he was. His coach watched this pattern and finally realized what was happening. During every race, instead of focusing on his own lane and running his own race, this talented athlete kept looking at the other runners. He was so concerned with where everyone else was, so worried about what they were doing, that he forgot to run his own race. The moment he learned to keep his eyes on his own lane and trust his own preparation, he started winning. You've been running other people's races instead of your own. You've been measuring your progress against someone else's highlight reel while comparing it to your behind-the-scenes struggles. The enemy within has convinced you that your value is determined by how you stack up against others instead of how far you've come from where you started. Comparison isn't just the thief of joy, it's the assassin of progress. Every moment you spend looking at what someone else has accomplished is a moment stolen from working on your own goals. Every ounce of energy you waste being envious of another person's success is energy that could be invested in creating your own breakthrough. The enemy within feeds on your attention to what's wrong with your life while starving your focus on what's possible. It magnifies every setback and minimizes every victory. It remembers every criticism but forgets every compliment. It keeps a detailed record of your failures but suffers from amnesia when it comes to your successes. But what if I told you that this same mind that works against you can be trained to work for you? What if the voice that whispers defeat can learn to speak victory? What if the thoughts that tear you down can be transformed into thoughts that build you up? The war isn't about destroying this voice, it's about changing what it says. So the first step in winning this war is recognizing that you're in one. Most people lose because they don't even realize they're fighting. They think the voice of limitation is just reality speaking to them. They believe that the thoughts of inadequacy are just honest self-assessment. But once you understand that there's a battle happening for control of your mind, you can start to fight back strategically. Awareness becomes your first weapon. When that voice tells you that you can't do something, you stop and ask yourself, is this voice speaking truth or fear? When you feel the urge to quit, you pause and examine whether you're responding to legitimate obstacles or imaginary barriers created by your own mind. The second weapon is replacement. You can't just stop negative thoughts, you have to replace them with positive ones. When the enemy whispers, you're not smart enough, you respond with evidence of times when you've learned difficult things. When it says you're not strong enough, you remind yourself of challenges you've already overcome. You become your own defense attorney, presenting evidence against the prosecution of your own potential. Religion becomes your third weapon, and it's the most powerful one you have. The enemy within hates action because action creates evidence that contradicts its lies. Every time you do something you thought you couldn't do, you weaken its power over you. Every time you take a step forward despite your fear, you prove that courage isn't the absence of fear. But here's what most people don't understand about taking action. You don't have to feel ready to start. You don't have to feel confident to begin. You don't have to feel brave to be courageous. These feelings come after action, not before it. The enemy wants you to wait until you feel different before you act different. But transformation happens when you act different until you feel different. Start treating yourself the way you would treat someone you're trying to help succeed. If your best friend came to you with a dream, would you tell them all the reasons why it won't work? If someone you care about was trying to build something meaningful, would you focus on their weaknesses or would you encourage their strength? The way you talk to yourself should be the way you would talk to someone whose success you're invested in. Your internal dialogue shapes your external reality. The conversations you have with yourself in private become the life you live in public. If you're constantly telling yourself that you're not good enough, smart enough, or capable enough, then you'll show up in the world as someone who isn't good enough, smart enough. But if you start speaking to yourself with the same kindness and encouragement you'd offer a good friend, you'll begin to show up differently in every area of your life. This doesn't mean lying to yourself or ignoring real challenges. It means focusing on solutions instead of problems, possibilities instead of limitations, growth instead of fixed abilities. It means asking better questions. Instead of, why does this always happen to me? Ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of, why am I so bad at this? Ask, how can I get better at this? instead of what if I fail. Ask, what if I succeed? The compound effect of these small changes in thinking creates massive changes in results over time. Just like a small rudder can steer a large ship, small changes in your mental habits can redirect the entire course of your life. But you have to be consistent. You can't win this war with occasional battles. You have to show up every day, ready to defend your mind against the attacks of limitation and self-doubt. Surround yourself with voices that speak life into your dreams instead of death into your potential. The people you spend time with either add fuel to your fire or water to your flame. If you're surrounded by people who constantly tell you what you can't do, who focus on why things won't work, who are more invested in being right about your limitations than seeing you succeed, then you're fighting this internal war with both hands tied behind your back. Find mentors who have won their own internal wars. Learn from people who have transformed their own lives, who have overcome their own limitations, who have turned their own potential into reality. Their victories become proof that yours are possible too. Their stories become ammunition you can use against the voice that says change is impossible. But remember, even the best external support can't win your internal war for you. At the end of the day, when you're alone with your thoughts, when nobody else is watching, when the only voice you hear is your own, that's when the real battle is fought and won. The moment you stop being your own worst enemy and start being your own best friend, everything changes. The moment you stop sabotaging your own success and start supporting your own growth, your entire life shifts. The moment you stop fighting against your own potential and start fighting for it, you become unstoppable. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending that challenges don't exist. This is about recognizing that the biggest challenge you'll ever face is the one looking back at you in the mirror. This is about understanding that you have the power to choose which voice gets the microphone in your mind. This is about realizing that you don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You don't have to have it all figured out to get started. And you don't have to wait for permission from anyone, including yourself, to begin living the life you were meant to live. The war against yourself ends the moment you decide to be on your own side. It ends when you choose to be your own champion instead of your own critic. It ends when you realize that the same mind that can destroy your dreams can also create them, and the choice of which one it does is entirely up to you. Stop waiting for someone else to believe in you before you believe in yourself. Stop waiting for external validation before you validate your own worth. Stop waiting for perfect conditions before you take imperfect action. The time is now, the place is here, the person is you. You have everything you need inside you right now to begin winning this war. You have the awareness to recognize the battle, the wisdom to choose better thoughts, the courage to take action despite fear, and the power to transform your internal dialogue from enemy to ally. The question isn't whether you can win this war. The question is whether you will. The choice is yours. And it's a choice you get to make new every single day. Choose to be on your own side. Choose to fight for your own potential. Choose to win the war against yourself. Your future self is counting on the choice you make right now. Make it count. But let me tell you something else about this war. It's not a one-time battle that you fight and then it's over forever. This is a daily choice, a moment-by-moment decision to either feed the voice that builds you up or the voice that tears you down. Every morning when you wake up, you get to decide which version of yourself you're going to be that day. Are you going to be the person who makes excuses or the person who makes progress? Are you going to be the person who focuses on obstacles or the person who creates solutions? I've seen people transform their entire lives by changing one simple habit, the first conversation they have each morning. Instead of waking up and immediately thinking about everything that's wrong, everything they have to worry about, everything that might go wrong that day, they choose to have a different conversation with themselves. They wake up and ask themselves, what am I grateful for today? What opportunities do I have today? How can I grow today? How can I serve today? This isn't about pretending problems don't exist. This is about choosing which problems deserve your mental energy and which ones are just noise created by the enemy within. There's a difference between real challenges that require your attention and imaginary obstacles that exist only in your mind. The enemy loves to make you waste precious mental resources fighting battles that don't even exist. You see, the mind is like a garden. If you don't deliberately plant what you want to grow, weeds will grow automatically. Negative thoughts, self-doubt, and limiting beliefs are the weeds of the mind. They don't need any help from you. They'll grow all by themselves if you don't actively work to prevent them. But positive thoughts, empowering beliefs, and confidence, these are like flowers. They need to be deliberately planted, watered, and tended to. Most people spend more time planning their vacation than they spend planning their thoughts. They'll research every detail of a trip they'll take for a week, but they never consider what thoughts they're going to think today that will shape the rest of their lives. They leave their mind unguarded, allowing any random thought to set up residence and influence their decisions. But you can't manage what you don't monitor. You have to become aware of the conversations happening in your head throughout the day. You have to notice when the enemy starts whispering lies about your potential. You have to catch yourself when you start rehearsing failure instead of practicing success. Here's what I want you to understand. Your thoughts are not facts. Just because you think something doesn't make it true. Just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean you have to believe it, entertain it, or act on it. You have the power to observe your thoughts without being controlled by them. You can hear the voice of limitation without listening to its advice. Think about this. If someone followed you around all day, criticizing everything you did, pointing out your mistakes, reminding you of your failures, and telling you why you can't succeed, you would eventually tell that person to leave you alone. But somehow, we allow our own minds to do this to us every single day. We tolerate from ourselves what we would never tolerate from another person. The enemy within is also clever about timing. It doesn't usually attack when you're feeling strong and confident. It waits for moments when you're tired, stressed, or vulnerable. It strikes when you're facing a big decision, when you're about to take a risk, when you're on the verge of a breakthrough. It knows that if it can stop you at these crucial moments, it can keep you trapped in mediocrity for years. But once you understand these patterns, you can prepare for them. You can recognize when the enemy is about to launch an attack and have your defenses ready. You can develop what I call mental muscle memory, automatic responses to negative thoughts that shut them down before they can take root. When the voice says, you can't do this, your automatic response becomes, I'm learning how to do this. When it says, you always mess things up, you respond with, I'm getting better every day. When it whispers, nobody believes in you, you declare, I believe in myself. And that's enough to get started. This isn't about living in denial or refusing to acknowledge real challenges. This is about refusing to let those challenges define what's possible for you. This is about seeing obstacles as opportunities to grow stronger, setbacks as setups for comebacks, and failures as feedback that helps you adjust your approach. The people who win this internal war understand something crucial. They don't wait until they feel different to act different. They act their way into feeling different. They don't wait until they feel confident to do confident things. They do confident things until they feel confident. They don't wait until they feel brave to be brave. They act brave until bravery becomes natural. Your actions shape your identity more than your identity shapes your actions. Every time you do something that aligns with who you want to become, you're casting a vote for that version of yourself. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, growth over safety, action over procrastination, you're strengthening the winner within you and weakening the voice of defeat. But here's the truth that nobody talks about. This journey isn't always going to feel good. There will be days when choosing to believe in yourself feels like swimming upstream. There will be moments when giving up feels easier than pressing on. There will be times when the voice of limitation seems louder than the voice of possibility. This is normal. This is part of the war. The difference between those who eventually win and those who surrender is not that winners never feel like quitting. It's that they keep going even when they feel like quitting. They understand that feelings are temporary, but the results of giving up can last a lifetime. They know that the voice trying to convince them to quit is the same voice that will torment them with regret if they do. You have to decide what you're willing to live with. The discomfort of discipline or the pain of regret. Both hurt, but they hurt differently. The discomfort of fighting for your dreams hurts today, but creates joy tomorrow. The pain of giving up on yourself might feel better today, but it creates a lifetime of wondering what if. Every single day you get to choose which pain you're willing to embrace. Choose the pain that leads to growth, not the pain that leads to regret. Choose the discomfort that builds character, not the comfort that builds nothing. Choose the war that makes you stronger, not the peace that makes you weak. The war against yourself ends when you finally realize that you are not your thoughts, you are not your fears, you are not your past failures, and you are not your current circumstances. You are the observer of all these things, and as the observer, you have the power to choose which ones you give power to and which ones you dismiss. You are more powerful than you know, more capable than you believe, and more valuable than you've been told. The enemy within doesn't want you to know this, but now you do. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Don't stop fighting against yourself and start fighting for yourself. The world needs what you have to offer, but first, you have to win the war within. And you can win it. You will win it, starting right now.